This is Channel 99 News with Charlie Miller, the David Sheff interview.
Hello! Welcome to Channel 99 News at 10. I'm your host, Charlie, bringing you the latest in news the moment it happens. We have a special newscast tonight featuring the real story of a young suffering addict and his dad. This story will journey you through his addiction and the horrors that addiction brings with it. I hope you enjoyed tonight's newscast, as it is very heartfelt. Please enjoy this short clip giving you a short brief on the story that you are about to hear. The book Beautiful Boy is written by David Sheff. It's about his son Nick and his journey through his crystal meth addiction. Crystal meth is a really serious drug, and it affects many people. Nick relapsed a total of 4 times and was sober over 300 days during this time. He relapsed many times because addiction is a struggle. It's a sickness, it's an illness, it's something that's hard to come over. But David helped his son overcome his addiction. This book and this interview get into a little bit more depth. I hope you enjoy. Hi, it's Charlie again. Thanks, David, for joining us today. No problem, Charlie. So let's begin. First question. What was the most horrifying thing about this addiction that you went through with your son? Well, Charlie, it was everything. Every little thing it brings along with it. And it doesn't only kill the addict, but those who love them, the addict. Nick has a disease and battles it every day. Even though he's recovered, he could still have a chance of relapsing. You never know what extremes that person is willing to go to in order to get that drug. And that is probably the most horrifying thing about addiction, is the drug changes the person. Wow. As a parent myself, I am always worried about my kids. What advice do you give Nick while he's going through his rehabs and relapses? Well, I give him tough love. I tell him that he has to believe in himself first, and that I'm always there to support him and whatever he does. I try to help him out, as a parent. I also tell him to stay sober, as any parent would, I think. The only thing I can do is love him through everything and have faith in him, and believe in him that he will get over his addiction and that he will not let his addiction come over him. A truly inspiring story. Thank you for your time, David. That's all the time we have for this interview. Anytime, Charlie. I love to help others, and by sharing my story, I think I can do that. Thanks. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Are you or a loved one struggling with addiction? Please call 1-800-185-ADDICT now for your free consultation. You're not alone in this. Please call. Welcome back to Channel 99 News at 10. I'm Charlie. We will now have our guest Richard, who was Nick's mentor for a long time while he was going through rehab, was also a part of Nick's 3rd relapse. Richard, what was the hardest part of seeing someone who was sober for 185 days relapse? Did you feel any guilt? Well, of course I felt some guilt. I think most people would. But Nick does have an illness, which affects all addicts. Any type of addiction is sickness, and it has to be dealt with differently for each person. In Nick's case, it was more of a personal acceptance approach. He didn't accept himself as a person, therefore he couldn't really accept his addiction. And the first step to getting sober is admitting that you have a problem and admitting that you're an addict. He didn't like himself, and that's kind of what started his addiction. He started off doing drugs to kind of make himself feel better about himself, and it just led to an addiction that spiraled out of control. Wow, really sad. Is there a cure for addiction? There is no clinically proven way to cure addiction 100%, but some people never recover, and some do. Whether an addict recovers is all on them and their mentality and their ability to fight their addiction. If they want to get better or try to get better, it usually happens, but that's not a guarantee in any way. Like I said, there's no for sure way to cure it, but it's just oftentimes a lot of therapy and rehab. And most times the addiction takes control of the addict, and that is a problem that we face trying to heal addicts. They are fighting their bodies, and that's when the battle is often lost. And, it's very hard for people to relapse and go back to rehab so many times as Nick did. And most times when they go back to rehab more than twice, they usually can never fully recover. Such a travesty. What would you recommend for those addicted and those who have a loved one who is addicted? I would personally recommend trying to get them to go to rehab. You always have to start somewhere, and going to rehab kind of helps them admit that they have an addiction. And I would also recommend taking family therapy or, therapy with that person, because addiction always affects the family in a way that most people who've never experienced this just don't understand. And I would recommend getting help, whether it's in a hospital detoxing or a rehab trying to, lean off of your addiction. And there's always someone out there that's willing to help. You just have to look for that person. Thanks so much, Richard and David, for sharing your story about Nick and your personal experiences with him through his addiction. Looks like that's our show. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow on Channel 99 News at 10. I'm Charlie, your host. Good night.
It's all around the world. People want to be loud. It's so cold, but I wanna feel this moment. When you're ready, gonna get it. Na 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 na.
And apparently I'm an elephant with a diabetic disorder.
Channel 99 News.
I need my cup of all bit white English tea. I'm so distracted. Febreze. Recommend.
Thanks for watching. Starring Charlie as Charlie, Charlie as David Sheff, Charlie also as Richard, and Ronna Mills as the editor.